And we're back on Niaga. AWANI next, an environmentalist suggested that Malaysia should lift the ban on selling renewable energy to its neighbours given the huge potential it has as an export commodity. However, an academic warned it could make land acquisition for other projects more costly. Climate Governance Malaysia CGM Council member Gary William Theseira pointed out that Singapore would have been a ready customer for Malaysia RE. And I'm going to welcome you to discuss further on this issue. Is on the line Renato Lima de Oliveira, the Assistant Professor of Business and Society at the Asia School of Business ESB. Thank you, Renato, for being with me today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to debate such an important topic. And thank you, Nina. Thank you, the whole team from Astro.
All right, sure. I'm going to just jump right into our discussion. So what can you see? What are the potential economic benefits for Malaysia in lifting the ban on exporting and exporting renewable energy to Singapore?
A lot. Singapore is 6 times bigger than Malaysia in terms of population, but it's Malaysia is 6 times bigger than Singapore in terms of population, but only 3 times bigger in terms of electricity consumption, which means that the rich economy of Singapore is really energy hungry. And with its commitment towards net zero, they will have to replace fossil fuel consumption. But they do not have land to actually be able to generate renewable energy. So that most of the energy from Singapore will have to be sourced elsewhere. Malaysia is a natural fit to be a source, a supplier of energy to Singapore. But again, because Singapore is so dense, so energy hungry, it means that in order to replace the total electricity consumption of Singapore towards renewables, it will mean that it will need to develop a lot of projects in Malaysia. In each project, normally it's tied to a contract of 20 to 30 years contract, which means that once you start signing up these projects, you are immobilizing land for years to come. That is one of the potential issues. On the other hand, we do have a lot of land available in Malaysia. Each project would mean that Malaysia can become an even more attractive place for solar energy developers and for the rest of the supply chain.
All right, I want to add another country to discussion. What does the deal signed between Indonesia and Singapore entail, and how does it impact Malaysia's position on exporting renewable energy?
Right. Also, in terms of energy security, no country wants to be dependent from a single one. Otherwise, you can get a situation, for example, in European Union or Germany and Russia, that was importing a lot of gas from a single country, from Russia, and then that can become a weapon, that can become a threat. So even if Malaysia then allows the export of renewable energy to Singapore, Singapore will not want, from a security standpoint, to be 100% dependent from Malaysia. So it means that it will want to diversify its suppliers to guarantee that aspect. So the deal with Indonesia is one manifestation of that. That as Singapore changes its energy mix, it will seek a variety of different suppliers. Malaysia would be really well positioned to be a key one, but by not allowing it, or at least by delaying the exports until the ban might be lifted, it might be losing time, while energy developers could already be mobilizing for long-term contracts.
So far, when they say if you want to do improvement, we have to contribute to more costs. In this context, what steps should Malaysia take to lift the ban on renewable energy export while ensuring that land acquisition costs for other projects do not rise? For your observation, is it possible?
This reminds me the old say of you can't have your cake and eat too. If we open and develop a thriving business to solar energy and basically, solar farms to Singapore, it means that some areas are going to be sourced for that, and the demand from Singapore is high, so there will be a lot of opportunities. this will inevitably put some pressure in different parts of land that would be most well suited for that purpose. However, this means that there will be a flow of income to Malaysian companies, and that income could be used for other activities. So it's not there will be one factor of production, land, likely going to be more expensive, but you're being paid for that. You're being paid to use. Imagine that as a long-term rent.
Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia is part of Asian and other few countries as well. So how can Malaysia leverage on Asian cooperation to enhance its renewable energy sector and benefit from the growing demand for clean energy in the region?
I think that putting in a bigger context, besides just Malaysia and Singapore, the world faces this need of transitioning out of fossil fuels. And we do have technologies today that can help and can do much more. Solar is one example, or wind is another example, well suited to other countries, not so much in Malaysia. But they come with a drawback. They come with an issue, which is intermittency. Until we develop really cost-effective utility-scale batteries, it means that we are incorporating more intermittent sources to our grid. In order to manage that, energy integration is key. So if one particular area is rainy or cloudy, you can draw energy from a different place, a different country, and that can compensate it. So when you are generating excess energy, you're able to send to places that are not, and then you get more when you need. So isolated grids, they are much more under strain when you move towards renewables, intermittent renewables. But an integrated grid, and if you are able to integrate the whole ASEAN, it means that you can think about a better energy management, more efficient way of accommodating this new source of electricity generation.
And then, are there any concerns about the potential impact on local communities in Singapore's demand for clean energy results in the immobilization of land in Malaysia for 20 to 30 years moving forward?
I think that's also a broader issue that Malaysian policymakers will need to look at. The risk towards local communities not only comes from, of course, development of renewables. It's still a very tiny industry. It has a lot of potential to grow. But you have land pressure that comes from mega infrastructure projects like ECRL or development of condos and land clearing for other uses. The key here is really to have a robust environmental licensing mechanism where you have incorporate the views of local communities with public hearings, with transparency, and so on. So if we move towards that, then that will allow more of a protection in more of an informed stakeholder engagement process. And that's independent of the growth of renewables. That is something that the policymakers should look at that regardless of lifting the ban or not.
So lastly, what are some of the challenges for you see in the renewable energy export?
Getting the stakeholders together, make sure that you mitigate any potential issue, developing more grid connection, that's also infrastructure is key, but it's really not a major hurdle. It's relatively simple to add more solar farms in Malaysia and then sell it to a neighboring country that is willing to buy for the long term. And again, don't think that Malaysia will be in this special privileged position as the sole exporter to Singapore. No, Singapore will not want to be 100% dependent from Malaysia. So there is a market, but it's going to be of a limited size, still a great size, and it's important to perhaps be a first mover.
All right, I want to say thank you very much to Renato Lima de Oliveira, the Assistant Professor of Business and Society at the Asia School of Business, for sharing the potential and further insight on how the benefit Malaysia renewable energy export.